Okay.
So
Good
I have
afternoon,
about
everyone.
17 participants. Yes.
It's happy birthday, AISE. I'm so happy to be doing this session with the Blue Cross. I welcome you all to this wonderful session with the Blue Cross. A lot of you might know that Blue Cross has been a very regular partner for us, and we have been working with them for the past many years, and our students have been volunteers at their program for many years now. Some of them have graduated, but they started volunteering when they were in middle school, and now some of them have graduated. So I'm really thankful to Mr. Vivek and Mr. Vinod from the Blue Cross of India who have agreed to, spend some time with us today and talk about their wonderful work, especially in the time of COVID. This is the time when people are not supposed to step out. The Blue Cross has been out there helping animals stranded on the streets, helping animals in their facilities. They do some fantastic work, and it's my pleasure to invite them over here. Before I hand it over to Vivek and Mr. Vinod, I just have one quick reminder that if you have any questions, there's going to be a Q&A session at the end of the presentation by Mr. Vivek, probably somewhere around 1:52. We would have about 8 minutes of Q&A time. You could also type in your questions in the chat box. If I forget something, or if Mr. Vivek, or if there's no time to address it, we would have them answer these questions either during the Q&A time or perhaps even later. Or if Mr. Vivek would like to take the questions halfway through the presentation or whenever it is, that's fine too. So all you have to do is, I think Mr. Vivek is going to pause every now and then to have time for the questions. Is that right, Mr. Vivek?
That's perfectly fine. So the easy thing is, if someone could, just moderate and someone raises their hand, there's an option for you to raise your hand, right? So if someone
Yes.
raises your hand, or someone, just unmutes and says, hey, I have a question coming up, and put it up on chat, we'll break there and answer that question.
Perfect. Sounds good. Over to you, Vivek and Mr. Vinod. Please take away. I'll be on mute.
So to start off, can everybody see me? Just a yes, no here on the chat would work. And am I audible to almost everyone? A yes, no, something is perfectly fine, guys.
You are audible.
I can hear you but not see you. I can see Balaji.
Apologies, please give me a second.
Yeah, now I can see you.
Perfect. So I'll just start off. So how many of the students over here, who are in the meeting right now, have actually been to the Blue Cross? So Blue Cross, looks like everyone's still joining. There are quite a few participants actually coming in. So to start off, Blue Cross of India was originally founded in 1959 and registered in 1954. This is some of the history and background that we generally like to start with to know the origin story, as you so call it. So along with me is the Senior General Manager or Head General Manager of Blue Cross of India, Mr. Vinod. So we will be running you through about what Blue Cross is, how it was formed, the work we do, and the impact we have had on society. And we'll break every now and then to take a couple of questions here and there, if that's okay. So just give me a second. Let me start sharing my screen. I do have a small, boring presentation ready for you guys. And hopefully you guys don't doze off halfway. So good to go? Balaji, good to go?
Yes, please.
So this is the Blue Cross of India. This is what it is. And this is something, these are some of the facts and our origin story of how we started, how we were registered, some of the works we did, how we have impacted the city of Chennai and India, and the work we do, the awards we have received, and so on. Some of the memorable ones is all summarized in one slide, if I may. So about the shelter, I don't know if you guys have been to a shelter. It is closer to Phoenix Mall near Velachery. So we are a home to about 2,500 animals at any given time, 2,500 plus or minus animals at any given time. And the species that we generally look after there's no specific species, but we have a lot of dogs, cats, cattle, the large animals that we have, everything, and we treat we treat them, home them, rehabilitate them from some of the major injuries, some from them being abandoned and so on. So this is what a shelters look like, and a shelter, as Blue Cross of India has three primary pillars. One are its donors, two are its volunteers, and three are its staff members. So these are the pillars, and you pull any one of them down, the entire building comes crumbling. So volunteers help us a lot with day-to-day activities, help us work with us every day, day in and day out. And I think you guys, when you come there, you would have also experienced the same. So there are quite a few animals that we do work with, quite a few animals in different have different conditions that we work with, rehabilitate them, and get them back to normal society. So these are some of our volunteering activities where we go there. We have a separate dedicated section called the main section where we give where the dogs need regular baths. So volunteers come in, help us out with giving animals their regular baths. And a little TLC doesn't help every now and then. So this is our large animal section. This is where our volunteers help, come, feed, work with the little ones, work with the little calves, help. When you're a little young, you're very impressionable. So that is the time when we work on teaching them the rights and the wrongs. We teach them how to be friendly with the others, get along. Just like how your teachers teach you, we have volunteers helping us along with our trained professionals to work with these little ones to make them more used to certain do's and don'ts that they have. So before adopt-a-thons, the volunteers come and help us. We have close at any given time, if I'm not right, Mr. Vinod, we have about 300 to 400 puppies at any given time. So all these puppies need to.
Yeah, right now the numbers are a little less, close to 100.
Close to 100. So, but on let's say a non-COVID situation would have usually seen about 300, 400 puppies.
Yeah.
So all these puppies have to be regularly bathed, cleaned, detaked, and given their powder wash and everything, just so that they are infection free and their immunity levels are up. So this is something that we do, and the volunteers of AIC regularly help us with that. And we conduct regular adopt-a-thons across the city to have these little ones, to help these little ones find a regular permanent home for each of them. And one of the key features that sets us aside from any other organization in India is the kind of rescues we do. We are probably one of the few organizations in India that does specialized rescues. When I say specialized rescues, it involves going down a well to rescue an animal, going down a bore well, going down a manhole to rescue animals, which requires a lot of technique, discipline, physical fitness. So all that is something and the most important work is you working as a team. So when you become a rescue volunteer, everything gets imbibed in you. Only then you're even so-called certified to be a rescue volunteer. These are kind of the scenarios we generally work with. Each of the scenarios that you see on your screen is a different one. Each of the well, though it may look like a similar well rescue, each of the rescues are pretty different from the other one, because this is an open well, this is a closed well. So we try to understand the topography of the place. We understand what kind of field that we work with. We do a bit of research before understanding what equipment to use, what technique to use, how many people need to be involved in a job, and so on. So we conduct regular practice sessions. We do them almost we do it almost fortnightly. We have regular training sessions. Although during COVID we had to cut down on them because there are now not as many rescues that come in. But yes, we do regular training, different kinds of training, and it's pretty brutal. And you need that mental toughness to handle such situations. It not only involves you learning how to use these equipments, it's also you understanding how to understand an animal in distress. You working with your pet animal is completely different from you working with an animal in distress. It's bound to bite back. It's bound to attack. How do you handle such situations? How do you handle such situations, such close quarters, or something that we train on a regular basis? So moving on. These are some of our successful rescues, projects, and campaigns. I'm rushing through our slides because I want this to be more of an interactive session rather than a long, boring PPT story. So this was one of our most famous and something that we got known by. It was where we where we rescued close to 48 pigs. A vehicle that was supposed to be carrying about 20 pigs was carrying about 60. It illegally was carrying about 60 pigs, and it was a rainy day, and somewhere around 4 p.m. the entire vehicle capsized. And you can see the image. So our team had to rush about, the place was around 40 kilometers away. Our team had to rush there. We got to save almost 48 pigs, and they live with us, and they are oinky as ever, and they've gotten so huge, and they do create quite a mess. And when you guys come around, have a cuddle with them, have a play with them. So they're pretty friendly, and this is something that we do. And the other important project that we take up during summers is something called the water bowl project, where we make our water bowls for animals and we distribute it across the city. The simple reason is it's summer. You get dehydrated, and animals need to recuperate. They don't have their usual sources. So what we do is we ask we ask the citizens of Chennai to come forward. We give them the water bowls, ask them to keep it on either end of the street, either ends of the street, so that, and regularly fill them with clean water. Let's say once in 2 days, once in 3 days, so that the local animals can just have their enough water just to survive. And we are always ready to help out, giving out more bowls. You in case someone comes in and asks, can I have a couple of more bowls, couple of 3 more bowls? We are more than happy to help you out with the number of bowls. So this is something that we regularly do. The other thing that we are doing during, that's more relevant to now, is the Feed the Strays campaign, where, as you know, the streeties mostly depend on food that is left out or something that's thrown out. You find them often in garbage cans. Now with the COVID and the lockdown, food is hard to come by. So Blue Cross of India has been actively working with the support of the public, where we prepare food in our kitchen. We completely prepare food we feed around 2,000 animals a day. We load the food in our vans, trucks, drive across town, find local areas where we can. We spread the food out, and it's completely possible with the support only of donors and good Samaritans. And how do we realize we're doing some amazing work is when people come back to us with photos on our WhatsApp. We have a rescue separate WhatsApp channel where people come back to us and send us messages like, oh my God, this is so nice to see. Thank you so much for helping out. So we measure our success or our performance based on gratitude. So when people come back to us, when you have that cuddly, when you have that wet nose rubbing against you, thanking you, this is how we measure. This is how we know we have done a good job. So this is something that happens quite so often in our field, and that's how. And I would say this is one of the most rewarding volunteering works or professions that one can have. So something that we did in the past, I'm not sure how many of y'all are familiar with the Chennai floods. Blue Cross of India was actively present during the Chennai floods, so active that it was working along with the NDRF to help the citizens of Chennai, get to safety, get better, and so on. So and the road and the water body that you see is probably one of the main roads of Chennai that we had to use a boat on, or navigate, cut through, and get the supplies, rescues, and everything done. So this is us. These are our volunteers. I think you would have seen a few of them. These are our volunteers cutting through the waters back in 2013, if I'm right, rescuing them and so on. We had to rescue, and rescues were not simple because these are animals in distress and these tend to get aggressive. So we had to rescue buffalo animals, which could be a dog and a buffalo alike. And these are not this is not a lake or a river. This is your city. This is sometimes your main roads of the city. And and these animals, some of them, because of evacuation, were left tied down to their shelters. So we had to go rush there manually, untie them, unhook them, release them, and then rescue them. And awards that we have because of the work we did, we have plenty of recognition and awards and so on. So how can one contribute? So Balaji was asking, if I remember, Balaji, how can the students of AIC contribute? So I think I've broken it down to just 3 specific parts. One is shelter work, where I think that is something that you guys do often, where you come by a shelter, help us with the animals, feeding the dogs, kittens, bathing them, cattle sections, and so on. Apart from that, we have two other specific ones, which are event organization, which includes designing of posters, designing or help us design a specific campaign, social media driven campaign, and so on. All these are something that we categorize as event organization. And the other third one is rescues, and these rescues you have to be trained. When I say trained, it's something that you do over a period of several months. You train, and then and only then will you be part of the tactical team to do some specialized rescues. So these are the three ways that I have identified of how students of AIC can help Blue Cross of India. So something of that we regularly post updates on our social media and our website. So any questions you have, any queries, you could always ping us there. We'll always be there to clarify your questions. Any rescues you see, any animals in any injured animal that you see, anything that you would like to clarify, drop us a mail, drop us DMS on any of our social media channels, and we will be there to answer your queries there. So that's a very quick run through of what Blue Cross of India is and does. So I will be more than happy to take a few questions and clarify most of your queries, if that's okay.
Thanks, Vivek.
I hope I was on time.
Yeah, no, plenty of time. Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. We can take questions now.
Vivek, that was super helpful. I just wonder we have several high school students here on the Zoom call with us. And, in a regular time pre-COVID, they're usually making their way over to Blue Cross. What are some immediate ways that our students can engage and help Blue Cross out right now?
You're talking about right now. So there are two ways that you can primarily help us out. One is creating awareness, whereby you share, repost the stories and tell the world the kind of work we do. And this second one is, I know the shelter is on lockdown where we are not letting visitors in right now because of the social distancing norms and so on. So what you can do is help us spread message, help us. We are always looking to go digital and help create a social media strategy, or as you may call it, to help spread the word. These are things that you can help us with. Coming up with creatives. High school students have helped us out with quite a few creatives. When it comes with social media creatives, and preparing event specific work, and we have specific work that comes up. We'll pass the message on to our volunteers. They help us present, come up with slides and so on, presentation slides and so on. And one of your volunteers, I think his name is Arjun, he's also helping us create an app. So these are the different ways that AIC can help us out and is helping us out. And one important thing is also donation. So with the COVID situation, coffers are running completely dry. So we are running dry. So any help from that angle will also be a big bonus. And anything else that you would like to add, Vinod sir?
See, I understand the fact that it's difficult for students or even volunteers to not come to the shelter and interact with the dogs or pups. But the situation, as we all know, the situation is completely different and unprecedented all over the world. And just like what Vivek said, an organization like Blue Cross makes a difference between the life and death of an animal. Because I have worked in an organization earlier where I had a jurisdiction of all the animal welfare organizations in India. And I can tell you that there are thousands of towns where there is not a single organization working for the sake of animals. And in those places, what really happens is when a dog or a cat or even a cattle becomes sick or injured in an accident or something, they just suffer and die. And I want you to put that in perspective. Having an organization like Blue Cross in a city like Chennai, where if you see an animal in distress, you have the option of calling them up or sending them a WhatsApp message, and seeing them rescued and taken to the shelter for treatment. I want such organizations to be supported, because it's not an easy task to help animals, since it requires a lot of resources and money also to run a shelter to help the animals. Yes. Vivek, you have to unmute.
Apologies. So I'm still getting used to muting and unmuting myself. So yes. So any other questions? Yes, Balaji.
I think you have indirectly mentioned that the number of volunteers decreased due to COVID-19 for social distancing, and I would like to know how else has COVID-19 impacted the animals and the shelter?
Okay, that's actually I'll let Vinod sir answer that.
Yeah. See, after the third week or almost the end of March, when we decided to close down our shelter to visitors, we also took the decision to cut down the number of people who work inside Blue Cross, because we didn't want the virus to spread. So we asked the people who are locals, used to come from their homes to the shelter to work. We asked them to stay at home, and we even paid them the salaries during the 3 months time that we asked them to stay there. And we were actually operating with close to 20 people who were staying inside the shelter. Even 2 doctors were there who stayed inside the shelter and worked with the animals there. So you can imagine that when during normal times we used to have around 60 people who work inside the shelter, and last 3 months we were actually managing the shelter with just 20-25 people. And 2 doctors instead of the 7 or 8 doctors that we usually have. So it created its own thing, but I should say that the staff and the doctors and everybody rose up to the occasion. And in fact, normally when they work for 8 hours, they put in more hours, they did 10 hours or 12 hours a day. And I'm happy to say that that we were able to continue to run the organization even in this terrible period of lockdowns and pandemic. I really wish we could go back to the old, the normal way of life. And of course, nobody knows when it's going to come back to that.
That's true, sir. So, like, to answer that question, I think he's answered that pretty well. So we did face quite a few. We did face quite a few challenges, right from cutting down the manpower actually working within the shelter to having no volunteers. At the same time, taking care of the animals, the 2,000 plus animals that we have, and so on. So it was challenging, but like he said, most of us got through and the animals are doing relatively well. When it comes to the doctors, they have been working overtime. Some of the doctors who are in 2 or 3 doctors who are with us, resident doctors, they have been working overtime because you don't know when the call comes in. So yeah, that is, I hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
Thank you. So someone else, any other questions?
If I may. So can you quickly take us through like what you did during the COVID time? Like what kind of rescue work you were involved in during the COVID time? Like was there anything different from your usual rescue work, or was it the same?
Yeah, see, the different thing was the feeding the strays program that we started in the last week of March and continued up to June. Because we normally feed animals that are inside a shelter, and since, as Vivek said, the food source for the animals that live in the streets had completely got blocked because of the lockdown, and so we decided that we had to step in and do whatever we can to help them get the food and not go hungry. So initially we started feeding the dogs that are in places where there are not much residences like industrial estates and the Marina Beach and all that. And then we slowly scaled up because there were so many other places that the food had to be distributed. So we got the help of community feeders in many places in the city, and we distributed the food to those community feeders, who in turn fed the dogs in their locality. And that's how, what Vivek said, we were able to feed close to 2,500 dog meals every day. And before the end of the lockdown, when we stopped this thing sometime in June, we had served more than 1 lakh dog meals, that is 100,000 dog meals. And I believe it was not an easy task to do, considering that we were also operating with reduced manpower.
That's
And and also thing, and I should say that there were a lot of people who helped us through in-kind donations by donating rice and other materials that were really useful to actually cook the food. And many volunteers also joined in to actually even drive the vehicle to distribute the food. And I'm happy that we really entered into this and did it. That really made a difference to those animals not going hungry.
I would like to add just one more point to that. What we managed to do during the situation was bring the community together by making, a community, by creating a social awareness about the cause, and which helped us create the concept of community feeders. What we do is let's say Balaji is from T Nagar. What we do is we hand over a chunk of food to Balaji and say, you know what, it's difficult for us to cover the entire T Nagar, so I'll give you the food if you can. Can you feed the strays in your area? Can you feed the animals in your area? And that's how we had this concept of community feeders develop, and that became a thing, and now it's a close knit community. And every volunteer, let's say you're from T Nagar, let's say you're from Tirvanmur, let's say I'm from Velachery. What we do is we take up, apart from Blue Cross feeding, we work individually and also try to we created this whole motion of sorts where one thing just snowballed and everyone started doing it. So that way we set a trend, is what I would like to say, during the situation. And that helped, not only that also helped us look at, diversify and cover a larger area, instead of we just have 2 to 3 ambulances working. So imagine every citizen doing this in his own locality. So the area that we cover becomes larger, and a lot more animals get benefited by this. And these are not just 2,000 animals across Chennai, but these are 2,000 animals apart from the ones that we have at the shelter.
Yeah, no doubt.
Thanks a lot, Vivek and Mr. Vinod. That was really superb and a comprehensive view of whatever the work that you've been doing. And as always, we are proud of all the work that you do, and we would love to be more associated with you. I'm sure all the students here would be more than happy to join you in whatever work you're doing. We just have one small thing to do before we wrap up this session. If I can request all of you to turn on your camera, Munji here is going to take a little screenshot of our session for posterity, because Blue Cross would also like to have a picture of this session. Thank you so much, and turn on your cameras.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you very much.
Turn on your cameras for a second, and Munji, once you're done, just show us a thumbs up and we'll log out. Okay, thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. This was a great session. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, Balaji.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Murli. Thank you so much.
Yeah, see you.